sorry about the lighting. I don't want to wake anyone in my house up right now, but I wanted to talk to you about something very important. So, you might be wondering, in one of my last videos, and in several of my videos, I've mentioned, I actually don't agree with Spinoza about this. I don't agree with him about that. And you might be thinking, well, if that's so, why won't you stop talking about what he said? Well, first of all, like I said, you can have great respect for people that you don't agree with completely. But more specifically, when I'm talking about Spinoza's monism and his belief that everything's part of nature and therefore everything is somewhat mystical and therefore everything is also subject to scientific inquiry, is a really beautiful bit of philosophy. And some parts of it have stood up to scientific inquiry, and some parts are still being questioned in that way. So what I mean by that is that while I have great respect for Spinoza because of his ethical character, actually, and then second to that because of his intellectual, um, his intellect is beautiful, to be honest. If you read his work, it's just like he just was a very beautiful thinker, and he had a lot to offer the world. But that's not that's not why I think the mind body connection is real. That's not um yeah, that's not why I tend to agree with Spinoza's perception of free will, which I also think is completely different from the determinism it's being compared with, actually. So what I mean by all of that is that the mind-body connection has been substantiated by a massive body of evidence. I would go so far to say it is an irrefutable body of evidence that says that thoughts are produced in the brain. Um, am I biased as a neuroscience? Of course, but also, do I believe that because I actually know the body of evidence? Yeah, the mind-body connection is real. And when we subject our ideas to scientific inquiry, we inevitably find that some of them are correct and some of them are not, and Spinoza would not have disagreed with that. And while he did believe that everything was subject to scientific inquiry, he also believed in bias and limitations and irrationality, and he believed that our pursuit of controlling and minimizing the negative impacts of those things was always limited. We should always aspire to it, but it's always imperfect, and that has also stood the test of time. Now, we can imagine that given his stance, he probably would have thought that by now we would have had a scientific explanation for time, and maybe some of you think that we do, but the experts in the field who've really studied it and that I'm really studying have said, Newton and Einstein had a good go of it, and they've done a great job of describing how time functions, and how it relates to other aspects of the physical world. But the philosophical question of what is time is still open, and there's I would say a general agreement among scientists that there's always a limit to the questions we can actually answer scientifically. And we're going to go over that more as we get more into the scientific method and scientific